For the McLaren Formula One team, speed is everything. When every second counts, there's no time to dig through data. Dropbox Dash finds what you need fast across all your work apps, so you can focus on what matters. Less busy work, more breakthroughs. High-performing teams rely on high-performing tools like Dropbox Dash. Learn more at dropbox.com/McLaren F1.
Parents of tweens, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs...
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, you may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
For most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.
Welcome to another episode of Your Call presented by the Headset app. Today we're joined by Shawn Jezek, defensive coordinator and strength coordinator at Stratford High School in Houston, Texas. In this episode, Coach Jezek introduces us to the concept of next play speed, a coaching philosophy rooted in emotional regulation and situational mastery. Borrowing from sports psychology and refined through years of defensive and special teams experience, Coach Jezek's system helps players bounce back, reset quickly, and win the next down, one play at a time. If you're looking to make your defense more resilient and responsive, this episode is packed with actionable insight. Before we get into it, let's hear from our sponsor, the Headset app.
The Headset app, a communication platform for coaches that makes sense. After all the technology we need is already in our pocket. No more time-consuming setup, lugging around cases, storing equipment, worrying about range, or finding the right location for your base station. The Headset app is an encrypted voice platform that is compatible with any Bluetooth headset or earbuds. The Headset app is a more secure, reliable, and easy-to-use communication system, delivered at just a fraction of the cost. Just open the app, put in your headphones, and go. At practice, on game day, or whenever. The Headset app. Download in the App Store or on Google Play today.
Hello, my name is Shawn Jezek, and I am the defensive and strength coordinator at Stratford High School here in Houston, Texas. And today I'm going to be sharing something that we started doing the last couple of seasons here at Stratford and a couple of previous campuses that I've been at. That's really made a big difference in what we were doing defensively and what I've done previously, special teams, that we call next play speed, and the idea of winning the down, which is really more of a philosophical thing that we're trying to accomplish here as an emotional regulation tool, really in between plays, in hopes of getting our players playing faster when the ball is snapped and bullets are flying. So sort of what this idea is, next place is really, like all great things, stole this concept from a sports psychologist or mental skills coach by the name of Graham Beckart, who works with a couple of NBA players. And he's got a company called Play Present. I highly encourage anybody out there to tune into some of his materials. Great for players, great for coaches. But he kind of talks about next play speed being something that within any kind of play, right, there are a ton of unanswered questions within it. And there's a ton of things that go on from an environmental stimulus standpoint that we have to address as athletes, as coaches, as competitors. And the ones that do it the fastest are oftentimes the one that create an advantage for themselves, certainly in the mental aspect of the game, create an advantage for themselves physically if they don't already have that. And so it's kind of a really great battle cry for the little guys. It's a battle cry for the mismatches. And it's just been an incredible thing to kind of include in coaching style over the last few years. Winning the down is what we use as coaches here at Stratford to communicate that to our players. So we kind of globally in the offseason talk about wanting to increase a player's next place, get them to play faster, but that oftentimes doesn't mean anything to them. And so one of the things that we communicate with them in defensive install meetings and in-season practices and in-season situations is this idea that every down is its own standalone down. And that's huge on the defensive side of the football field, as many of you guys know and imagine, because we're on the reactionary side. And there are a bunch of stuff that we have to react to going from one snap, one play to the next. I don't know who did the study on this, but many years ago I was at a clinic talk, and with the increase of offenses using more of the up-tempo style play and the NASCAR, air raid, hurry up, line up, keep the defense guessing. You really had 18, sometimes even down to 12 seconds in between the tackle being made, the officials coming out, spotting the football, and the ready for play whistle being blown, where the offense could snap the ball the next time. And that's a very little amount of time to try and accomplish everything that we're trying to do as far as getting ready for the next play. You guys as coaches, tuning into this know, right? Personnel can change on the offense and defensive side of the football. There's reactions, right, to a holding penalty that didn't get called or a pass interference penalty that didn't get called. And so we sort of emphasize with our players that we have to kind of cut and flush as much of that garbage as we can, get it out, and then move on to whatever the next play is, right? And trying to accomplish winning that down. And then there's all the elements that go inside of that. So, we implement it with our guys again in a lot of our off-season meetings and sort of our talks as far as coaches' expectations for players. Right, it's an off-season deal for us and it's Genesis. Say, hey, this is going to be a focus for us. This is what we're going to prioritize. And then after that, it permeates the rest of everything that we're doing. From a game plan perspective for the coaches staff, it's huge, right? Because part of getting from one play to the next is on us as sideline guys, making sure that we know, hey, the information that we already know, right? The down and distance, hey, was there a penalty? Was there not a penalty? Where is the ball spotted as far as hashes? What part of the field are we in? Right? That has to go into our game plan and our scouting of the next opponent, like everybody else. But we've got to make a decision, okay, with the game plan and with the play call on a Friday night or Thursday night, Saturday afternoon, whatever it is, in order to get that to our players so that they can be ready to go for the next play as fast as possible. And so part of the way we implement this from a coaching staff perspective, okay, is by saying, hey, if we want our players to win the next down, whatever the result of the previous down was, right, we need to be able to get the call in before the offense does so that our defense can take a look and see, hey, what is the personnel coming into the field? Where are we at on the field? What's the down and distance? Okay, how do we win this next down, right? And good communication going into our players as far as knowing how to win a down from it's 1st and 10. What is a win defensively, right? We define those types of things for them as coaches, ahead of the season, and our players know it. We practice these situations, right? When we go out, we go through a 7-on-7 or a game situation type session with our offense, right? Our kids are always asking us, hey, coach, man, how am I treating this down? Is it 1st and 10? Is it 2nd and 7? And we'll script practice sessions where we have it's 2nd and 7 plus. We're going to play that down, right? Like it's 2nd and long. And then whatever the result is, we're going to play a 3rd down accordingly as well. And our players know what the definition is for winning the down. Typically, right, it's a yardage thing. 1st and 10, we don't want to give up more than 3 yards. 2nd and whatever, we don't want to give half the yards, right? It's general rules that sort of all of us sort of play with and know and understand. One of the big things that we've added in with our guys within that is also having an understanding of how many plays within a football game we have to win. Off season, a couple years ago, Ian and a couple of the coaches on our staff were able to kind of sit down and look at over the course of a football season, how many downs we won and lost over the season, and what did that look like as far as our win-loss with opponents, as well as how many points were we giving up because of the lost downs, right? Because defensively, we matched up with our offense to try and win games. We're not always just trying to win on one side of the ball. We want to take control of what we've got, but we got to match what our offense is doing as well. Fortunately, here at Stratford, we've had a really great explosive offense the last couple of years. And so a lot of the stress and pressure has been off of us defensively. We don't worry about pitch and shutouts. And in years upcoming, we might need to transition and start doing that. And so our percentages might change. But what we found out in our offseason study is that if we won 90% of downs on defense, meaning we lost the other 10%, then we could expect to give up a touchdown, right? And each 10% after that was, roughly another touchdown. And so for us, right, we could win football games, okay, with the defense giving up between 21 and 28 points, right? Because we had such an explosive offense. And so we're looking defensively at really being able to lose 40% of downs before we are really in jeopardy of losing the game because of our unit, right? We obviously don't want to go into a game saying, hey, we can lose 40 or we're planning on losing 40, but it's a communication tool that we can use with our players, again, to emphasize moving from one play to the next with the communication of, hey guys, like they're going to have a couple plays, right? That the offense is, but there's a lot of advantages on the offensive side of the ball right now. And here in Houston, Texas, a lot of the best players that we see, okay, over the course of the season are on the offensive side of the ball. There's a bunch of incredible athletes in this area and in others. And so there's going to be plays where they gain yards, and there's going to be plays that we lose downs. However, once we lose a down, right, whatever the new down and distance is, it's our responsibility to bounce back, okay, and take in the information, the new down and distance, the new ball placement, the new field position, whatever else it is, go back to the pregame scouting that we did on that particular situation and put it into play and try and win the next down. And so it's really win the down for us at Stratford is our word for, hey, shut up and move on. Just simply put, worded in a much more positive way. There doesn't have to be a lot of, vulgarity, okay, involved with it, which is great, for the coaching world that we're in now and just sort of being a good person and all the things that we want to do. And so that's really, sort of how we implement it and how we see it take place. And it is a thing that really has to saturate the entire program. As I mentioned, it's something we do in practice. It's something we do in games, and it's something that we have in our game plan. A lot of times when we're meeting on Saturdays and Sundays, if we get to game plan type things, we're having to make calls and checks and things like that slow down our players' ability to transition from one play to the next and play football fast. We don't put it in, right? We'd rather sit back in our zone coverage or whatever it is that's our base and allow them to make fast decisions. It's really been awesome to kind of implement this, right? It really puts a lot of autonomy back into the kids' hands and out of the coach having to make every decision for them. Right, because it takes into the cognitive skill that a player can present. A couple ways that I personally have seen it be implemented and be a benefit is, again, I came defense side of the football from special teams. Was able to serve a couple years as special teams coordinator, a couple different campuses, Rouge, Klein Collins, here in the Houston area as well, and then here at Stratford. And one of the things we really emphasized with this approach every down like it's a singular down was in extra points. We made the other team's extra point. So, they've scored a touchdown. They're lining up for PAT field goal. That's still a down. And so we're communicating to our defensive football players, hey, yes, we just gave up points, right? But we've only given up 6 so far, right? You only go by 6s. You don't go by 7s. It's not the playground. It's not the park. And so, we were able to really kind of communicate, hey, look, here's a time, right, that we could go out here and we lost the down before this. Let's go get this block, right? And increased, right, a lot of the time that we spent looking at extra point defense. Really, as a special teams coordinator the last couple of years, have emphasized that unit on the field even more so than things like kickoff return, which, we're fair catching a ton of kickoff returns in some of those other programs. We're sort of reacting again to what the kickoff team can do. When you line up an extra point, right, we get to be the aggressors, right? We pretty much know how everyone's going to do it because no one's spending a bunch of other time at practice kind of going over things. But hey, if we have the mentality that we're gonna, okay, then we can really influence a game by getting after that kick. All of a sudden, special teams coordinator on the other sideline, sets it up and he's walking to set up kickoff, which any special teams guys out there know, right, is one of the scariest units that we coach, right? And all of a sudden, our extra point, defense team gets in there and blocks it. Now the head coach is in that special teams guy ear, right? He might have had his onside kick ready to go, but screw that now, right? We got after it. They got to change their play. We're on to the next play. They might not be. We feel like we've created the advantage, even though, right, we just experienced, a 6-point swing that went against us just because we got after one of those really critical downs. And those are kind of situations that have come up that I've experienced success kind of implementing this philosophy, this mentality that's not undifferent than a lot of coaches out there and what they're doing. Other times that it showed up, we were fortunate to be in an overtime game with a really good Kingwood team this past season. Kingwood, guys that aren't familiar, are in sort of the Northeast Houston area, and they're in one of the best districts in the country, right? If you haven't heard of Kingwood, you've probably heard of North Shore or Tascasita. They show up in football season, they show up in track season. And Kingwood is kind of one of those teams that's always in the mix with those guys. And we had them as a week 3 opponent. Had a really great first half against them. We won a lot of downs defensively. Our offense was able to accomplish a lot of things. And in the second half, that kind of flipped. Right? Kingwood had a great running back, a really great offense that they were able to kind of keep the defense on the field a little more than we wanted to be. Our explosive offense on the sidelines, and we're able to convert, a couple untimely turnovers into some points and things of the like. And they really went into an overtime period with all the momentum and then won the coin toss. And so the only thing we really had going for us at this point in time is we were the home team. And that was it. They had everything else in the bag, all the advantages necessary to them. And we really leaned heavily on hey, whatever down is in front of us, let's go win it, right? Let's play as fast as we can. We were able to really keep our emotions in check on our sideline, players and coaches as well, and be able to tap in and say, hey, here's the situation, right? Here's the personnel they're going out in, right? They're not going to change just because it's overtime. And our players really responded to it, treated it in a calm manner, that the moment wasn't too big for them, and not making any suggestion that it was for Kingwood. But we were really fortunate. Our offense scored on their first possession, and then we held Kingwood for a 4 and out, and it felt great. Like, it was a phenomenal experience for players and coaches. First time we've played these guys. We have another opportunity to play them at their house next year, and I'm sure it's going to be another grinded out game with a really tough competition. Next play speed. And winning the down as a philosophy, and is really our core value or core belief on the defensive side of the football, has been a real benefit, I believe, to us. I think it could be a benefit to a lot of other coaches. I'm totally willing to share, how we break down any of that kind of stuff to you guys. I stole a lot of that stuff from the clinic talk from Mike Elko, who looked at down and distance and what teams like to do out of it, and then kind of, the obvious yardage type things for a defensive guy to look at what's a win and what's a loss. I will say, though, the one thing that has to be there in order for it to be successful is a coaching staff has to buy in all the way. We can't preach emotional regulation, and we can't preach next place and winning the down if one of our coaches, our linebacker coach, which is my role, or our corners coach or our safeties coach, is chewing a player out when they lost the previous down or made some sort of penalty or error. Right, we have to be responsible for moving on the next play alongside of them to win that next down. So it has to be communicated from everybody in order to get it right. I appreciate your time, coaches. Again, let me know if I can share any of these additional resources with y'all. Like I said, it's been great for us using a little bit of the sports psych for it, getting our guys mentally ready for the physical test of football.
That wraps up another episode of Your Call with Coach Shawn Jezek. His commitment to teaching emotional regulation, creating clear definitions for success, and holding both players and coaches accountable has shaped the defense built for fast, focused play. Whether it's responding to a busted coverage or a momentum-shifting score, next play speed equips your athletes with the tools to reset, refocus, and fight for the next win down by down. Share this with your staff, and if you're serious about building a mentally sharp unit, this is a mindset worth adopting. Remember to check out our sponsor, the Headset app, an innovative technology that gives you your headset system right on your phone. It is so much more cost-effective than the traditional headset systems, allows you to expand as needed, is easy for setup on both game day and practice. The link to the Headset app is in the show notes.